Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by 3% and Open Letter, in which we take one giant difficult book, break it down section by section, bit by bit, talk about it, make jokes, commentary, so on and so forth. We are currently in season number 6, and we are reading the Book of Disquiet, the complete Book of Disquiet, by Fernando Pessoa. And we are this week going to be talking about sections 274 through 315, which in the New Directions edition is pages 288 through 336. And I am joined, as always, by Brian Wood.
Hi, Chad. It's a pleasure to be here. That
was a long one. We already had a kid interrupt. So for anyone playing your 2-month review bingo at home, if you're watching, that's a marker. If you're listening, you can just put that one down for free. Also, I am definitely wearing some of our Open Letter merchandise from a long time ago, a semi-inappropriate Thousand Morons t-shirt, which we made back when we published Kimanzo's book.
What's inappropriate? What's inappropriate about the tessellated?
A little bra-like.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing inappropriate about having some support. Whatever.
Oh yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it. But we made 1,000 of them back in the day and sent them out to booksellers and reviewers and all sorts of people, and it was pretty awesome. And all of our subscribers got them, so on and so forth. But I don't know if you remember this, but when we did the 2-month review on Merce Rodoreda and Kimanzo came on, I mentioned this shirt and he's like, yes, I still have it, but now I'm old. I have man titties. The man titties, like, which was great. So, anyways, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I just got back from the dentist, so half my face, I have no idea if it's there or not.
That's cool. That's a good state to read this book in.
I haven't been to the dentist. The last time I went to the dentist was 1999.
Are you fucking kidding?
No.
That's dangerous.
So Bill Clinton was president the last time I went to the dentist. And it's not because I'm afraid of the dentist. I don't have like a story of, like everybody has like this traumatic, whatever.
I think dentists are great.
I just didn't go. And eventually it gets so long, it's like, yeah, what's the point? Well, I had to take my daughter. I had to take my daughter to the dentist, and she goes, Daddy, when do you go to the dentist? I'm like, schedule that right now. So I just felt, I felt bad. So
you got guilted into it by a 3-year-old.
So first time in a long time. First time, long time, Chad.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. So I might drill down my face, but whatever.
That's awesome.
That's how I'm doing. I'm doing good.
So we came up with the idea, or you came up with the idea of trying to come up with rules for writing based on Pessoa's writing, and maybe inspired by J. Franz's amazingly bad LitHub list of advice for writers. That
list was from like 10 years ago, right? I mean, that's like I don't know. It was,
all I know is I saw it on LitHub because LitHub is the greatest website known to man, and if it's not on LitHub, I don't know if it's real.
Any website that has hub on it, I'm pretty much down for.
Yeah. There's a lot of blank hub that you just like, that's a good site to visit.
I'm gonna smash those buttons. Yeah.
I'm gonna
click. LitHub, DMV hub. I'm all about hub. Yeah.
I can't even go all the way there.
I hope they make a Disney hub because I love Disney princesses, Disney movies. I want a Disney hub website.
I think there's a category within certain hub sites that might have Disney as part of it, or princess or something.
Okay, can she wave hi to you just real quick? Say, okay, look, Chad, wave back. All right, go play with your toys. Bye.
Why did you say bye-bye?
Because we're recording. Okay, sorry about that.
Guys, no problem. So J. Franz, wherever he had it from, and I think it's part of his new book of essays too, had this 10 rules for writers that were incredibly silly. Like a lot of them weren't rules, and a few were like just Zen koans, like you see more sitting still than chasing after, or shit like that, like deep-minded stuff. So you kind of came up with the idea that we could use Pessoa and try and retroactively like refit like what Fernando Pessoa's or Pessoa's rules for writing would be, and
only dream.
I know that was going to be my first one. Only write dreams. Like, and who is it that did the? Is it Gardner that did the "Don't ever write about your dreams" or "Write about a dream, lose a reader"?
Maybe I know. John Gardner was really big about the fictional dream and bringing your reader into a fictional dream, but I don't know if one of his rules was don't have your characters write about dreams.
It's one of those famous lists of like advice, or like it's in a book of like how to become a great novelist or whatever. It says never write about your dreams, which ironically, and this is a tease for like episodes a year from now, but I got in the manuscript of The Dreamed Part, the sequel to The Invented Part by Rodrigo Frazan, and I started reading it last night. And not only is there a lot of stuff about dreams, it has that line in it where it says, someone said, write about a dream, lose a reader. And he's like, so I'm going to write about dreams. And also I use parentheses and footnotes, and those also lose readers. I've lost all my readers basically already with all these things. And also page 20, page 20, there's a reference to Twin Peaks. And on page 21, there's a reference to Blue Velvet. So we're going to have a lot of David Lynch references next time we go to those, but that won't be until like January 2020. So,
well, just quick aside, how was it so far? I know, just kidding.
Pages are pretty great. It's like very miasmic at the beginning. Like most of his beginnings of his books have that like kind of build up or lead in, where it's like sort of finding a footing of like what's talking, what's being described, and it's still like in that beginning phase of that. So I'll know more after tonight. I'm going to read a bunch of it, and tomorrow for Thanksgiving I'll read a bunch of it. So once I'm like 150 pages in, I'll have a much better sense. But it's got the voice, and it's just switching it from like invention to dream right now. So it's pretty cool. It's very exciting to have it and to hold it, to look at it. It's a giant ass book. But anyway, so Pessoa, write only dreams. Everything else is bullshit.
Yeah,
nothing else is real.
You probably have something of like, not touching or not possessing. Yeah, like, some like esoteric line about like you don't possess your writing. Or there was actually a couple passages here that did talk about the act of writing, which I thought were neat.
That's why it seemed to make a lot of sense to do this. One of them, so if we want to make a rule or one of his advice for writers, section 285 is kind of it. A breath of music or of a dream, anything that might make me almost feel, anything that might make me stop thinking. Do that. Write that.
Yeah.
Also, like right there, while we're there, I have this note. And number 286, section 286 says, give to each emotion a personality, to each state of mind a soul. Isn't it that movie by Pixar, Inside Out?
I don't know. I haven't seen.
I haven't either. I thought maybe you had.
Toy Story was the last Pixar movie I saw. I think it was right when I went to the dentist, probably last. Those are all about around the same era. It seems like late 90s.
Now it's just Fireman Sam all day.
Yeah. Now I just watch
This isn't maybe not advice, but
by the way, a lot of those YouTube things, man, they're like, I don't know where they're made, the Eastern Bloc somewhere. And then the translation's really bad on it. And I'm just wondering, what the hell are you watching? There was like something that was, it must have been like Japanese or something, because it looked like Tokyo, and when the voices sound like poor Japanese to English or something. But it was like, the earthquakes are grounding us. We must survive this now. And like they're under the desk clapping. Earthquakes. I'm just like, what are you watching?
And your daughter is going to learn English in the weirdest way possible.
Father, have I been grounded by earthquakes? Yes,
it's like have. That plus like everything that you write. Just add those two together. Speaking of, you should get a copy of, this is such a digression for everyone, but a copy of Sophia Bond's Night School. I've been rereading it. It comes out from us in January, but this is short stories I think you would like. They're a little surreal, very funny, very weird. They're cool. I think they're in your vein. Related, so 274, the very first section we had a part here that I have a joke for. Towards the end of it, it says, with the soft marks made by a blunt pencil, I haven't the heart to sharpen. I slowly fill the white paper that they used to wrap up sandwiches, in which they provided me with, because I required nothing better, and anything would have done as long as it was white, and I feel content. Which is like so much of a hashtag I'm writing moment. That like maybe one of his rules for writing is like always hashtag I'm writing, even on sandwich. Just fill the page with white marks.
Hold on, let me do a brief pause. I have to go help her real fast.
I'll sit here for a second. That's a good section. That sort of relates to a rule for writing. This is harder to do when you're by yourself. It's easier when there's someone else to like help kill time with, but regardless, I'll remind everyone in this spare moment that you can always follow us on YouTube. You can follow me at ChadWPost and open_letter at Twitter. And also our next season will be Radiant Terminus by Antoine Boladin. So buy it now. Okay, I killed a little bit of time, but sort of segue there.
Yeah. So there's like, well, one I liked. How do you pronounce his name? Joao. Joao. I liked how he called them fragments instead of sections. It makes like I started thinking these as fragments, and it's helped a little bit with wrapping my head around like the fact that there's ellipses that go nowhere because they don't have the. I'm assuming they don't have the.
It's like a block. It's like at the beginning of a sentence and then it ends.
Yeah, like the metaphor starts. It would be to me like losing a ... The next day, it's like, oh, okay, so you missed that one. All right, gotcha. But on fragment 279, he starts talking about the Iliad, to have work done by someone else and merely having to do one's best to perfect it. Perhaps that is how the Iliad was written. Like that, that'd be a good rule of writing. Have somebody else do it, and you just fix it and put your name on it. Like
exactly.
I like that one.
Take someone else's story and just perfect it.
But it has this idea of perfection, which I really like, because that's something I always struggle with. Like, or when I'm teaching other people writing, like, well, when do you know you're done? It's like, I don't know. Like, I'm never done. I feel like it could always be better.
But perfection is inhuman.
Yeah. Well, it talks too on the fragment 280.
Yep.
In order to achieve perfection, a man would need a coldness that is alien to man. And then he would lack the human heart with which to love his own perfection. We stand in awe of the great artist's desire for perfection. We love their attempt to achieve perfection, but we love it because it is only an attempt.
That is a perfect, like that first part of that too is like a good Zen koan for a Franzian Zen koan for writers. Perfection is inhuman because to be human is to be imperfect. So you have to accept that, I guess, as a writer.
Yeah, only birds are perfect.
The birds are going away, and so are novels. That was a quote of his earlier this week too.
Good.
Both of these are
birds and bees and novels will no longer like. Just calm down.
I'm sure that 2 of the 3 are important.
Yeah, calm down, dude. We're like raking the forests now. Things are gonna be fine.
Totally. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that shit anymore. It's gonna rain. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Here's another one. In everything, you should be an intense, rather coarse dilettante.
Dilettante. I like that. So do you think, as far as like, I mean, obviously everybody knows the rules on writing are kind of like, that's silly. Like everybody knows that. Because everybody's last rule is always like, ignore all the rules.
Yeah.
Like, ha, ha, ha. Like, right. That has to be rule 10 or whatever. But do you find with work that you accept or books that you like that there's a certain kind of rule or thing that does make writers stronger?
I think the thing that I most hone in on is that there is the particular voice that's part of it, and that is specific to that work. So it doesn't, like, there's so many books that you can pick up, like just anything, not just written by Americans or in translation, but in whatever, and you pick up and you can read the first page or 2 and they just sound like generic. They just feel like there's no voice there. And if you can have that voice that has that's almost indefinable as how you get to that, but like there's kind of idea of like the specific word choice, the sort of style that it's written in, like whatever that rhythm is that makes something immediately sound like a unique voice, that I'm compelled by instantly. So like even like going back to like Thomas Pynchon, that's one of the things I really like about him, is that his voice is so kind of, it's not specific to him in some sense, because the books are a little bit different. Like whatchamacallit, like Gravity's Rainbow versus Mason and Dixon are very vastly different in terms of the tone, but there's a uniqueness of voice that comes through, and that confidence and that sort of ability to write that way is the thing that I'm always looking for. I don't know how you get there, and I think some of these rules for writing, the ones that are like specific, like don't use adverbs or don't use the word then, don't use the word and
whatever.
Like, that stuff's dumb. Like that stuff's straight dumb. But the rest of it is more or less like inspiration to like get you past the anxiety of trying to write and into some other level that's like less mechanical, maybe, and more something else, or something to like attention to.
Because it seems like I know with myself and like with my own evolution as a writer, and teaching it now with folks that are just like starting out writing or wanting to be serious about writing. I think with the voice, like part of it is just being yourself.
Yeah,
like being comfortable with writing, because like
what you know.
Yeah, well, partly, but I mean, sometimes you can hear people trying to impress, and like that's when like the line doesn't sound right, or they're using words that it just doesn't seem right for the character. which I find really interesting with these heteronyms. Like he gets so deep inside the character that I think he's able to write in their voice.
Right.
But I think a big part of that too, though, is just, to me, it's always about having the line be clean. Just like get rid of the crap that doesn't need to, like.
I don't know that that's always true. That's
no, but I'm not meaning like Hemingway, where it has to be like, the sun was out, the sun was on his shoulders, it felt good, he felt good in the sun. Like I don't mean it has to be like that, you know, like caveman etchings or whatever. But like, I don't know. There was like that James Baldwin quote, "Write a line as clean as bone." Like I always like the idea of that, because there could be big bones and small bones, but like if you keep it clean, if you're keeping it clean, like I think the voice is what comes out more.
Although maybe so maybe this is going to be this might be wrong, but maybe for all advice given, it's everything and its opposite are true. That thing and its exact opposite are true, because you have like on the other side,
cookie.
There's my fortune cookie. That's my Zen Cohen J.
There's a little bit of good and the evil, and a little. I got that tattoo on my lower back, man. TNC surf design. Yin and yang, baby.
But like the opposite of what you're saying is Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
And Finnegan's Wake works perfectly well. And like any of those things are like
a completely flawed, unreadable book. So that's why nobody reads it.
Hey.
They say they do, but they don't.
That's not true. There's two people who have read it.
And that's why reading Ulysses out loud is a failure. But that's what we should have done. I just got all these shots in my face and I can't feel it. I should have to read Ulysses out loud.
Finnegan's Wake sometime, man, because there's most of those words are multiple words jammed into one. But maybe that's true with a lot of these things. Like you can do A or you could do negative A, and they will work as long as there's something that makes something other that allows that to work. Like because
is there something that would apply? And this will go back to Pessoa. We're not leaving Pessoa, right?
No.
But like I always like to go back to the who was it? It was John Gardner and was it Gas?
Yeah.
Okay, that had like the beef because they were like strictly realism versus more kind of postmodernism, right? And then there's like the fight between Franzen and Gaddis.
Gaddis, yeah.
Well, he said Gaddis wasn't good.
Yeah.
Right. And then Ben Marcus is like, screw
You're
you.
an idiot.
Right. The whole Mr. Difficult beef they had. Like, so there's the idea of like the reader being your friend, and like why are you going to put your friend through this difficult esoteric text that like hurts your brain? Or there's, reading of like, this is literature, this is meant to be, to make you a better person, to make you think, to think deeply. Like they're both right. They're both correct in that.
There's a great article in The Guardian from this past Saturday, whatever, the 10th of November, called "Pretentious Impenetrable Hard Work Better: Why We Need Difficult Books." That sort of talks about what you're saying, and is it's pretty great. It's an interesting article about the new Man Booker Prize winner, Milkman, and how people are like, it's too hard.
Okay, but I think like as far as rules for writing, there has to be ones that apply to both difficult texts and straightforward cinematic realism type texts. Because this one toes kind of right in between the two. Like the actual words on the page, it's clean, it's easy to read, it's well written. But then it asks you to think a little bit deeper, and there's no if somebody asked me what the character arc and the plot was, I'd be like, there isn't one. with the upward inflection, because I don't know.
But there's like so just to go back to the idea of advice stuff, though, it's sort of like and maybe you're right that there are some things that could be applied to everything, although I feel like you could always find some exception. But it's sort of like in baseball where you have like different ways to get to the end result. So there's like people who are like high power, low contact, and other people are like high contact, low power. They all like you can pitch to contact, you can become a strikeout pitcher, you use 2 pitches or 4. There's lots of different pitch tunneling is specific to this, but there's a lot of different ways in which you can become successful or make something become a successful baseball player, a successful book. But those approaches might be radically different. And trying to make a book into the opposite thing won't work. Like the book has to find its own form, and its right form, and it's right written. Like if this were written as a novel, like he says the thing about like where is it in here? Something like this should just end. This formless like nonsense that I'm writing should just come to an end at some point. Like,
Yeah,
I can't write a novel because like novels that sounds great, but like fuck no. It's like this book could only
part of it was in
this.
289. Like my self-critical mind, fragment 289. My self-critical mind allows me to see only the defects and faults in my own work, and so I only have the courage to write snippets and snatches, brief notes on the theme of non-existence. And yet, even the little I write is imperfect. Like there's this like I got the idea there where there was like this feeling of wanting to write something larger that's going to be easier to publish or to be published, but instead I'm uncomfortable with the imperfection, so keep it at snippets. There's the whole thing about never not publishing.
Yeah, it's in 280 has it too. Far better for everything to turn out to be nothing and for this plotless novel to end there. So like this book can only exist like this. If this isn't any other form, it doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
And one could argue that this form doesn't work as well as other variations on this form, but it's still there within that. So like
which is interesting because right after that on 291, fragment 291 is when it first to me like really starts to want to get into an actual, like it was an attempt at doing narrative, like novel type narrative.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like yeah, that has one of my favorite lines in it too. I probably felt flattered that someone had taken the time to consider my existence and conclude that it was that of a potentially lovable being.
Potentially. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah. How wearisome is it to be loved, to be truly loved? How wearisome to be the object of someone's endless bundle of emotions.
Yeah.
This dude was well adjusted, is what I'm saying.
But no, that's why I like, to me, like, I think, you know, as far as like a role or something, like I like the idea of, you know, trying to like just be yourself and be confident in yourself. It'd be like if Pynchon tried to write a Franzen type novel, or if Franzen tried to write a Pynchon type novel, you know, it'd be very, you'd be a counterfeit. It wouldn't. You know.
Yeah, although it's weird because they're attributing in that sense like more credibility to the artist maybe, or like the genius of the artist versus the situation of the prose. So like when Franzen started out, he did try like 27th City or whatever is more experimental, quote unquote, than any of his later books. And like at that time that was him, but that was also the thing that book worked within at that moment in time, that situation. And now he's in a different place.
I wonder because there was that long time ago, before Charlie Rose got exposed for who he was or whatever.
Exposed is a key word.
Yeah, exposed is the key word there. Ugh. Like he just looked like, sometimes like the crime, like the look and the crime just really fit together.
Yeah,
and that's one of those cases.
Well, I'd heard stories about that long before he was.
But there was I've tried to find it on YouTube. I can't find it. But there was an interview where there's all three of them. It's David Foster Wallace, Franzen, and Mark Lehner.
Yeah.
And it was in the early 90s, I think. And they're talking about them being like the torchbearers of postmodern literature or something like that. I'm like, why is Franzen there?
Right. Yeah, because that was his early on thing. And then he diverged. So he became a different writer. But like, I feel like even within like Pessoa, so like if he's being true to himself, that's true, but he's using the heteronyms. Like this will come up with Volodine too, of like creating that heteronym that's identical to itself. And each one of those books, like the pastoral poetry is so much different than the Book of Disquiet. Like the form, the content and the what's going to be said in it and the voice and the form have to all meet one another correctly. And I don't know that any writer should always write the same sort of thing so much as like finding new ways, new forms, or new things that will best accompany whatever that book is. Like it's more midwifey sounding at this point of like bringing that book into existence in the right way.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't make sense because it's on a concrete level. Like you need to write like grammatically or not grammatically or whatever. But there, I feel like there's some larger. This is getting into cult like thinking, but there's some like larger, like it's inside yourself finding your form for the universe bit that you could go down. That I think is probably just as helpful as saying like don't use the word then.
Yeah, well then there's that.
I do have to say Pete's 306, or sorry, the section fragment 306. This is how I write every single one of my blog posts for 3%. Just as some people work because they're bored, I sometimes write because I have nothing to say. My writing is just like the reverie in which someone avoiding thought would naturally immerse himself, with the difference that I am able to dream in prose and extract a great deal of sincere feeling and much legitimate emotion out of not feeling. I feel like that's how every week, just like I have nothing to say. Let me write for 3 hours.
So I had a question. This is just me being ignorant, as always. There's been referenced several times the French author Chateaubriand.
Yeah.
Have you read Chateaubriand?
So very long,
do you know?
very long time ago. When I met the guy that wrote the episode of Lost that the third policeman was in when I was working at Delkey, and that became like this huge crazy ass phenomenon. Chateaubriand was one of his favorite writers, and he's got like long sort of autobiographical sort of book that I never ended up reading, but I read part of.
Because we get the brief snippet here. François René de Chateaubriand, 1768 to 1848, a French writer, politician, historian. His most famous works are his novella René and his autobiography Mémoires de Outre-Tombe.
That's the one that's supposed to be amazing.
Okay.
And that's the one that this guy had told me about and was like
the memories one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I mean, clearly it's the Pessoa academics will definitely be able to school you and I on this, but it's clearly an influence on.
Yeah, and I believe a lot
Pessoa
of
his heteronyms.
Yeah, an expert could probably fill us in on that, but I believe that it is like sort of the autobiographical reflections, and a lot of the books might even tie together. I don't know if Chateaubriand's books are each separate so much as like a continual life that's being made via like observation and fragment, and like, or not fragment per se, but of like just whatever that moment is. And this does have a lot of that, of just like like you're saying last time, like you see the whatchamacallit, like you can see everything by just sitting still bit or whatever. That's the Franzen bit. The one where it's like I just look out my street and I can see everything.
Yeah. Oh, I'm small, and because I'm small, I'm big.
That one. Yeah.
I always thought Chateaubriand was just like a meat dish.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's primarily, and then they just put it into book form and people love it because people love meat in book form.
This guy is the fillet of the genre, so to speak. Chateaubriand.
Oh, Road.
He's the fillet of the genre.
Right. I've been listening to this.
I've read his whole oeuvre. Those wonderful things people say. We're just like, yep, I think you and I are going to get along great, douchebag. The exegesis of Chateaubriand is a revelation that all should shut up. I'm going to go get drunk. See ya.
Oh man, I've been listening to this podcast about Nexium, that cult, the sex cult, and a good part of like one of their beliefs shows up in section 307.
Nexium, I thought that was like a pill or something that you
I know it should be, shouldn't it? Like, no, it's that crazy. You've heard of this cult? It's like the famous actresses and actors are involved cult. They had were arrested recently for like selling prostitutes. And
was it the lady from Smallville?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I remember that part. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a long podcast from Canada about it. That's awesome. Okay. But they talk about some of their fundamental beliefs of like their cult. And one of them sounds almost exactly like section 307. For us, everything lies in our concept of the world. Changing our concept of the world means changing our world. That is the world itself, since it will never be anything other than how we perceive it. So don't blame the world. Just change your view.
Yeah, that's like that's going to be colorfully drawn on a chalkboard in a cafe somewhere.
Oh yeah,
where they charge $9 for a coffee that takes 10 minutes to make.
Yeah. Fuck you too, Joe Bean.
It's just time, man. Don't worry about it. I actually have to be places, so I do worry about it.
Oh man,
I didn't get to ride to work on a unicycle like you, weirdo.
Speaking of being places, fuck unicycles too. Speaking of being places, did you see the Brazos had the list of their best books of the year? And number one, where the top one that was listed was The Invented Part. Wow. But the whole bit that they used was that none of the books and none of the authors and none of the people involved could be involved with Brooklyn. So they're like anti New York City, anti.
Where's Brazos again?
In Houston.
Houston. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, stake a flag of pride.
I don't know. I can't really trust anything come out of Texas. I mean, I'm glad they picked Invent Part. I love that book. Love the author, love the translator, publisher.
Iffy. Verdict is out.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. Is there anything else about this section that you want to talk about? I like that it mentioned Detroit and Michigan. First time that there's like a U.S. reference
random
right there in the middle. Detroit plus Michigan. And I do also like. There's a great movie that I love called Kicking and Screaming back when I was in college, and there's a line in which one of the characters is like, "I feel nostalgia for things that are happening right now," like as like this kind of like achingness for like having graduated from college. And there's that great part on 276. I feel nostalgia for the possibility of one day feeling nostalgia, regardless of how absurd that nostalgia may seem. It's like yes, it's like my movie.
Yeah, I did have just one fun thing to throw out there. It doesn't have much to do with this section necessarily, but just Pessoa in general. I like the idea of talking with your author last week, where they're talking about like he's buried in the pantheon or whatever. Like he's like he's it.
Yeah. And
I was trying to think of like for American literature, what would be like, I guess we would say like what's like the Mount Rushmore if we had a place where we could venerate American literature. Because I was trying to think like if like everybody would be like, oh, Pessoa. Like
there's that question.
Do we have one of that for American literature?
I think there's two different things that go on there. There's the one of like who would be the Mount Rushmore of American literature, in which it's like the best writers of the best books, and you could have the whatever Fitzgerald, Hemingway, Faulkner sort of vibe, that thing. Or there's the thing that like Pessoa is, where it's like canonized in that every high school student is reading a lot of Pessoa works. In which case, the Mount Rushmore of that for America would be To Kill a Mockingbird, and A Separate Piece. Sure. And whatever is on that Great America read fucking whatever that thing that they did.
I was just trying to like think of like what is like a name where you would say it and like, oh well, yeah, of course. Like the first thing that came to mind was maybe like Walt Whitman.
Sure.
Like, I mean, you can say bad things about Walt Whitman if you want, but everybody pretty much agrees like, oh yeah, good dude. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, like
Allen Ginsberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who? I mean, the big ones you'd automatically, I think, people would go to is like the Hemingway and Fitzgerald. But like, is that still?
It's really popular though to like shit on them right now.
I know, that's what I was saying. Like, no matter what you choose, I think you're going to be fucked.
Yeah, because like it seems like as far as with Portugal, like
everyone's read this.
Yeah, but like, and it's just like, oh yeah, like he's Babe Ruth or whatever. Like he is,
Babe Ruth was not real. Babe Ruth was
neither was Pessoa or his things.
Babe Ruth was just a heteronym of Pessoa's.
But that'd be
maybe was invented by the media.
Sure, but I'm just wondering, like, if people, I don't know, maybe that's one of the weird things about American literature, I guess, where
it's so much more diverse. It's hard to like stake a claim to American literature in that way because it becomes off as somewhat being nationalistic, given like all of our background and the American exceptionalism and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with Pessoa, it's like, what else? Pessoa has to be like, along with Saramago, probably the only two Portuguese authors anyone would be able to name, like with regularity. Like no one.
I think that's part of it too, with like with the country being smaller and more homogenous. Like it makes it.
And something that's exportable. Like we have.
That's something too. Like who would be like on my Mount Rushmore? Like who's the poet I put on there? Who's the like? I want to have a woman author. I want a black author. I want to like. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out who would be my like top picks for these, and it's like there's like I could think of like 50 that would be worthy for each one. And
exactly.
Everybody would argue. I mean, look at the list. Like anytime anybody does a list of anything, people get all up in arms about it.
I think
like the New York Public Library just did their 100 whatever, and immediately people are like, why isn't this on there? It's like, well, it's 100 books. Like I can't put all of them on there. Just like, calm down, relax.
It's like the New York Times notable 100 books for the year. It's like a bizarre accumulation of things. It always
I'm sure like you guys, like if your book isn't shortlisted on something, it's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Burn this place down. Why would you not pick this book? This is so good.
I would never say anything like that. I just take it in stride. I'm just like, that's
win not a criticism of yours, and I think it's a natural reaction, but like I can only imagine like, I really like the book Native Son, so can I put Richard Wright up there?
Sure.
No, you can't do that. Okay, sorry, I'll pick a different one. So Toni Morrison won a Nobel. Does that work?
Yeah.
No, because there's Zora Neale Hurston came.
Zora Neale Hurston's awesome
whatever.
too.
So it's like, yeah.
There's like
I don't know if they're like Pessoa is like such a monolithic. Like from what I'm discovering, he's like this literary giant.
Although the weird thing about that again is that the stuff wasn't published until the 80s.
Yeah, maybe it's
like, you know what I mean? Like it's like new discovered old. Wait. Yeah,
Is that
you know what I mean. Like,
is that sort of like in a lesser extent the way Bolaño's cult is? Like
I
just
think to a degree, but Bolaño was popular throughout the world before he was popular in America. We were
Okay.
very late to the game. Like, I knew about his books well before any of them were coming out.
Oh, you're so emo. You're so emo. Oh, I
know.
knew. I saw him. I saw him at a small club before.
Yeah, well, we had a readers report on
Yeah.
the Savage Detectives when I was working at Delkey.
Yeah. Okay.
Before any of them came out, so I knew it from like
Sure.
someone recommending it, like people in Spanish readers knew. But so it always takes time. It's like Sebald was the same thing. He was popular everywhere else, and then he became more popular in America later. But I think I'm wondering, with you saying about the lists and like Mount Rushmore type of stuff, like hopefully we're getting to the point where like all these lists, instead of even arguing with them, we're just like they're all pointless. So let's just stop. Like they're all stupid and like like debatable, and it just let's just move on from that form of like of list making and pretending that that's like some sort of like intellectual feat to come up with like 25 books that were written in 1955 that are worth checking out today. Like, it's just fuck it. That's
They're
not
basically
interesting.
invented for clicks. It seems like, or for for bringing.
That's a very cynical view. I think that they're trying to share and help readers out.
That too. No, I mean, obviously, like I enjoy the contest. I always like to see who's on it and complain about who's on it because it makes me feel good about myself. I don't know, but like it's when that one person, I saw a tweet where they showed the sales of the Man Booker finalists, and like the best-selling book was like 5,200 copies.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I thought they would. Are you supposed to be a bestseller now that you got shortlisted?
Yeah.
Nope.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sales are just too depressing.
But no, I found that just very fascinating. The fact that hold on one second.
But
I just found it so fascinating that just how huge Pessoa is within his country. And it made me think, like, within ours, I don't know if we could ever agree on one.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
I don't think
and it's also very popular to have a dissenting opinion, because like if you want to say Faulkner, like I had no idea until meeting Valerie Miles and the book that you guys did with her, what an influence he was in South America. I was like, holy cow! Why are they reading this dude from Mississippi? This is weird.
Yeah,
but like he was a huge influence on all these different countries in South America. It's crazy. I didn't. So like maybe put him up there, but then it's like, I don't like him.
And he's someone whose books, the tone and like the distinctiveness of them sort of changes bit by bit, depending on what form he needed for, like, Go Down Moses versus Sound and the Fury versus Absalom. I do love Faulkner.
But I would love to hear what people think about, as far as, who would you want to put as your, have them buried in the pantheon? Who's the older American author that you'd want to do that with?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear who she or he is.
Same. I will say is that it's a dissenting opinion. I like Antonio Lobo Antunes better than Pessoa from Portuguese Writers. There's my
You could be making
up
a name for all I know. That's fine.
Act of the Damned is a very fine book.
Yeah.
Like, but he's a novelist, like a very experimental but interesting novelist. But he's a novelist. He's not doing this sort of thing. But it was always rumored like either he would win the Nobel Prize or Saramago. So when Saramago won, it was like that was the end of his chances. But anyways, I'm gonna have to get it going. So do you have a favorite line for this week?
Let's see. I'm trying to see if right here. There's a Cristiano Ronaldo biography, and it's written by Guilherme Balague. I hope that person's Portuguese. I would say that's probably the best book.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, CR7, man. I
mean, that's a great looking title. I like that.
It's just a great looking man.
That's the best book. It's the best. It's the best subject and everything.
For sure. Greatest player in the history of players.
I think. Let's see.
I've got an amazing one.
All right, go for it.
From section 306. I rock myself as I write like the crazed mother of a dead child.
Oh, great.
Yeah, uplifting. feel like
Lovely.
that's my emo quote for the day.
Yeah. I like the idea on 279, just the quick line that says, I would never be able to set down on paper those dreams of writing.
Oh yeah.
I always have this, this anxiety of, I just have to be able to allow myself not to be perfect, because I know I'm not going to be perfect, but it's always this struggle of like not making it as good as what you have in your head or what you know it can be, and knowing that you're always going to be falling short, and wrapping your head around that and being okay with that. So maybe I was very comforted by those sections where he talked about the pursuit of perfection and how alien and stupid that is. So thank you, Pessoa. You actually uplifted me. Finally.
I love the use of the term inhuman. It shows up a lot in a recent Car Seat Headrest album, and there's something about it I really do like.
Yeah, and did you watch The Inhumans, by the way? I heard it was awful.
I couldn't bother. I watch a lot of those things, but that one I did not watch.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so next week we'll be going over sections 316 through 358, which in the New Directions version is like the next 50 pages. But we'll have that up next Wednesday. In the meantime, you can always follow us. You can buy this book through New Directions. You can buy any of the other 2-month review books through Open Letter's website, which is openletterbooks.org. Follow us on wherever, Instagram, Twitter, all that is always open_letter, and I'm always Chad W. Post. How about you, Brian?
I am at Brian Wood _, and I've got some really hot, crazy Twitter takes. So
man. You've been blowing that shit up.
I'm on fire. You want to check that out? Talking about past lovers, future lovers, current lovers, secret lovers. Doing album reviews, film reviews, book reviews, recipe reviews, recipe ideas, cocktail reviews, ideas.
NBA hot takes.
Yep. And I'm doing ats. I'm sliding on DMs, and I'm all over it. Get on that. Brian Wood _. You'll be amazed.
Yeah, and that is a good place for you to keep up to date, so that you can hear when Brian's book comes out.
Yes.
You get all the information.
If the Earth is still here, it'll be there.
Well, if the earthquakes haven't grounded us.
Yeah, we've been grounded. Yeah.
Anyways, well, thanks, and thanks everyone who is listening and watching. Rate us on iTunes, subscribe, tell your friends. Get ready for season number 7, which will be Radiant Terminus by Antoine Volodine, and we'll talk to you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving. Remember all the massacres that took place on the first Thanksgiving. Bye.